Hi and welcome to the show. Last time I was in the forest, it was just above freezing. Now it's pleasantly warm in the 30s. So I want to ask a question. If we look across cultures and even continents, your mystic has always wandered towards the forest. From Scotland to India to even the Aborigines in Australia. I want you to think about this for a while. Why is it the mystics and people seeking solace come to the forest, to be surrounded by trees, new growth, and birds? The trees do give off an electrical signal, and there are pheromones that they produce as well. You would think if that was the case, then everybody would come to the forest. But this is not the case. Only a few people come to the forest. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian, Hindu, Sufi, Buddhist, Aboriginal, shaman. It makes no difference. You tend to be singular by yourself. I live in Ukraine, and as you can see, there is absolutely nobody in the forest. I want you to think about it. I want you to think very deeply as to why this might be the case. Because long before psychotherapy and New Age enlightenment and finding yourself, it didn't matter who you were, you came to the forest. You came to the forest for this solace. If we look at the works of Gurdjieff, Gurdjieff talks about self-remembering, and he often describes meditation as chopping wood. I would like to add to that when one walks through the forest, you are inundated with smells, sounds of nature, the electrical currents issued from the trees, and eventually the ego disappears, and you are, if you wish, in a state of meditation. However, I'll go back to my original question, and I'll leave you to think about it for a while. Why do you think people go to the forest to find solace, to find maybe balance, spiritual enlightenment? There must be a reason. I'll leave you a few moments to think about it. Okay, let's look at a few of the more noticeable reasons. If you live in a city, it's very simple to get sensory overload, and you often get spikes in cortisol due to the frantic pace of life. So obviously that really does influence the type of person who comes into the forest, who wants to break away from this cycle. Now, the other side of this needs a little bit more thought, needs a little bit more thinking about. We all like to lower our sensory overload. That's what we do. We do that. We like to reduce our cortisol layers, and we like prolonged nature exposure. Unless you've got hay fever, then realistically that can be a pain. But within this space, you are pretty much guaranteed to get heightened awareness. How you read that heightened awareness is completely subjective. Some may find it as finding their own equilibrium. Some may see it as communicating with nature. Others may see it as communicating with the spirit world. It doesn't really matter how you see it. It really doesn't. It just matters whether or not it's useful for you on your life journey. If we go back to the city, and you can see around me, it's alien from traffic, sirens, advertising, noise, deadlines, and continual interruption. It's just alien from that. Because a forest does the opposite. It slows perceptual speed. And as I said, it increases your own internal vigilance as well. That psychological combination makes the mind notice sound, movement, internal dialogue, memory, intuition, and symbolic association. It's very difficult to see a tree and not have some kind of archetypal association attached to it. It's very difficult to walk in the forest and not have one's mind go to stories like Red Riding Hood or fairies. It's just impossible. So this is really one of the very good reasons why people come to the forest, because of this heightened awareness. This is the place where you meet gods. This is the place where you meet spirits. This is also a good place to do initiations and revelation. Bringing somebody into the forest to allow them to find out about themselves is fairly amazing. If you have read The Wind in the Willows, there is a really touching scene in the winter where Mole gets lost in the forest and Rats saves him, and eventually they make it to the Badger's house. On surface, it appears to be some kind of children's story. Really, when you dig into it, the rhythm and cadence and the way it is written and the way the animals are says a much deeper story. For example, Pan appears. Of course, Pan is a creature of the woods. Ironically, so is what became known as the Green Man. Now, everybody is like, oh yeah, the Green Man, it's thousands of years old. Well, actually, it's not quite thousands of years old. It was a mid-18th century reboot. During this time, there was what they called the New Age. It was a rebellion against the satanic hip mills and the industrialization. Blavatsky, Gurdjieff, they were all part of this mini revolution, if you like, or a revolution for the brain. You could probably call it a renaissance. But during this time, a lot of things were discovered or reinvented, and one of those, of course, was the Green Man. One of the oldest names of the Green Man is Jack of the Woods, but the Green Man itself is not really that old, and it's really tied to what we can understand as Victoriana. So if we're looking at humans being attracted to symbolism, let's look at the symbolism ordinarily we're attracted to. Well, we have the symbolism of the nation. We often associate the goddess Britta and Britannia to England. We've also got the association of money. For some unknown reason, if somebody is wealthy, we presume these people to be morally superior, where quite often they're usually quite, shall we say, flexible with their morality. We also have the organized religion, which is prevalent in any society. All these combine to give you your identity, your status, and ironically, your morality. But the ancient world, this is what this is. Although ironically, most woods have trees in them which are essentially anywhere between 40 and 60 years old. They are farmed. So the forest may be thousands or hundreds of years old, but I can assure you the trees are not. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at, if you wish, constructed sacred places. There are old forests, don't get me wrong, but generally speaking, they're farmed. But the reason why they're sacred is because everything that I have mentioned, the money, the religion, the identity, the status, when you're in here, that is of no concern. The thing of concern is blending in with the environment, finding your peace, forgetting about the boss, maybe forgetting about your family for a few minutes or a few hours. We all need a break. Seriously, we all need a break, even if it's from ourselves. And in here, you can lose yourself, which is great. I would strongly recommend, before you start having an argument or you're going to ask your partner some serious questions, come into somewhere like the forest and actually have the realism of the forest absorb into you. These places have been here for thousands of years. We're humans. We might hit 85 if we're lucky. And that really puts into proportion the questions we're going to ask. And when we see the harmony of nature, we absolutely understand that that harmony should be in our lives. And if we're arguing with people, if we're provoking them, if we're becoming reaction junkies, maybe that's something we need to deal with. Or perhaps we need some focus on what we're actually asking. What seems terribly important to us, if we look at it in the grand scale of things, is probably negligible. I watched a YouTube program and it interviewed this girl who finished with her boyfriend of a year because he only spent 1,000 on a present. Oh no, it was 10,000 on a present and 1,000 on a meal. And she found that beneath her, he should have spent more. And I think this is the trouble with the capitalist disease. It doesn't matter how much capital you get, you want more. It doesn't matter how wealthy your husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, it doesn't matter how wealthy they are. Whatever they do for you, they seem to fall short sometimes. You think, God, they've got all this money and they've only got me this. But realistically, you know, this is, if you wish, the capitalist disease. We can't take money with us. There's an old saying, there are no pockets in shrouds. So the thing that is of real value is my connection with you and your connection with me. That on some level we can take with us when we approach our final curtain. Because I can assure you, as the old 1970s song by Diamond says, you know, money can talk, but it doesn't walk, it doesn't dance, it doesn't kiss you, it doesn't give you any form of psychological help. Yes, it can pay for it, but as soon as the money runs out, so does the psychological help. So finding that internal balance is absolutely paramount. So I recommend, unless you've got chronic hay fever, to come into the forest. Not because it's the ramblings of some old pensioner, because you need to connect with yourself. Or even better, come in with somebody that you really care about and connect with yourselves in the balance of nature. Because everything about our lives, the scrolling, the text messages, the frantic work pace, the absolute craziness that we live under, that pulls us further and further away from ourselves and nearer to, if you wish, overt capitalism, which, if you think about it, we were not really designed to be capitalists. We were nomads. We lived in caves. We moved. We lived on the plains. We lived in forests. We lived with the cycles of nature. We didn't live to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to make somebody you've never met wealthy. So the very act of work is, shall we say, necessary, but it's not really within the cycle of a natural life. So think about what I've said. Maybe travel to somewhere that you have a great attachment to, and use that moment to just absorb nature. We do it all the time. We climb to the top of a hill to get the best view, to take the nature into ourselves. But we can also do it in just a small plot of woods, or an isolated piece of grass, or a quiet park. We can do the same thing. And those moments with nature help balance ourselves. And that is incredibly important, because in today's society, everything takes us off balance. Thank you very much for listening, and I wish you well.